Hello viewer, Pretty Ninja Andi here. Welcome to my YouTube channel, and in these series of videos I decided I want to try and catalogue as many cars across multiple sims as possible and basically create a Top Gear kind of wall of legends, if you will. So to do this, I will first talk about my equipment. My equipment is fairly basic. I have a playseat, a fold-up one, not a hard one, with the Thrustmaster's TMX Pro racing wheel, which is very good, as well as the Oculus Quest 2 to make things in VR. And that's a key point I would like to make about all of my catalogues, is that I'll be trying to do all of them in VR, not flat screen, not triple screen, in car, give you full-blown experience. There are some great VR YouTube channels out there, so I highly recommend that you go and have a look. But in the case of myself, I'll try and talk you through what it actually feels like to be in the car, whether you feel like you're riding low or riding high, and just kind of the overall aesthetic and immersion, if you will, of what the car actually feels like. Then, as you can see on screen, we'll be taking them for a few laps around Imola. The rules are pretty simple. I'll be doing 2 out laps just to get the tyres warm, depending on the game, because that is such a mechanic. And then there'll be 3 hot laps. Now, I could get them wrong across all 3 hot laps, but I'll be taking the fastest one, putting it into the database alongside what would be an optimal time if possible. So to begin with, I thought I would have a look at a free sim, which is RaceRoom, as you can see, and we're going to start off with one of the free content packs, was the P1, and first in line is the Audi R18. So here we are inside the R18. As we are about to start what was the quickest of the 3 hot laps to get onto our Catalogue leaderboard. I'll have to come up with a nice name for it at some point. But yeah, whilst we're just going through the first sector, we keep it nice and clean, keep it nice and tidy early on the power and acceleration. But let's just quickly talk about the car. The interior of this car is really detailed. It's lovely in the VR headset, as we run a little bit wide there, just to prove that I am human and it's not all 120% AI. But yeah, the cockpit is incredibly lovely. The one thing I will say is that there is no viewing, like you do feel very claustrophobic in there. There's not a lot you can see because of the slightly long dash. It's a little bit tricky to see the apexes on the left hand side. But again, this car is designed for more of endurance racing rather than sprinting around Imola. As we go through sector 2, we got another purple sector there of 1 minute 1. I feel like I can do a little bit better in this car, but in the way of fairness, only 3 laps are available. So it is all down to how I drive on the day. I think that's the only fair way of doing it, otherwise you could be doing this forever. A bit late into the apex there, we kind of missed that one. Early on the power to come across the finish line to do a 1 minute and 33 seconds, almost dead. 008, not quite 007. So as we go to look at the sector times, we can see that sector 1 and 2 are in pretty good shape, but sector 3 I just couldn't get any quicker than. Ironically, my sector 3 lap to outer lap, so I must have just got my braking points wrong or something like that. But yeah, so that one is now into the spreadsheet, along with the optimal time of a 1 minute 32.731, as it states there that I could possibly have done. So moving on now, we are going into the Dmd P20. And to keep it fair, we're just going to pick the first livery on every single car that we try out. So yep, let's go into the car and see how fast we can get. So as we come down the hill to start what is ultimately the fastest lap in the P20, which I'll be referencing it as, we cross over the line and we're not too far off the R18 lap time already. So as I was driving this car, I thought, okay, pretty similar, nice, looking forward to this. This should be a good drive. But this is a lap where it all came together, and that is probably because this car is on rails. You can see from the steering, I'm not really fighting the car, I'm just pointing it where I want it and it goes there. And as you can see in sector 1 already, compared to our fastest lap, we're almost a second up, which is ridiculous. purely because I just got the braking point right, and that just goes to show you do need to put in a lot of practice when it comes to sim racing. You're not immediately going to be quick, and I'm no quick driver. This is purely from a hobbyist point of view rather than a pure out elitist sort of sim racer, if there is such a thing. But yeah, as we go through sector 1, that was a purple sector, we're going through this beautiful complex here. I am going to learn all the names of these because I've got them here in front of me, but I'm just too interested in seeing what I do in this lap, see if I do anything wrong, get it quite right. I get a nice straight line through that chicane. That is very important if you're struggling on Imola. Make sure the car is as straight as possible through that chicane. You don't want to be over steering the car, makes the weight balance get a bit all shifty. You would have also noticed that the gear changes in this car are a little more quicker. I feel like this has definitely got a slightly shorter gear ratio. But as we come up to the line, we do it in a 1 minute 32.055. So as we go and look at the split times for this flying lap, we can see that all 3 sectors were purple, and even our optimal time was exactly what we got in our lap time. Now, we would get an optimal time if we drove the car a little bit more. So we're just going to take the result as it is. So that'll be going into the leaderboard and on to the last and next P1 car. So the last car in our list is the Mistral M530 P1 car. I believe this is the free content car, so if you do download RaceRoom, this is the free car that you will get when you install the game. So again, we come down the hill ready to witness the fastest lap in the M530. Now this is the free car that you get with RaceRoom, and to be fair, it's a pretty damn good car. For beginning off wise, you get great visibility. It's left hand drive, not too much in the way of detail inside the cockpit, which is probably a good thing because the HUD, as you can see, is the typical RaceRoom sort of HUD. But one thing that did surprise me is that this car is not as stable as the P20. There's definitely understeer with the default setup. That's probably one thing that I should have mentioned. All these cars have default setups. There's no tweaking or anything like that. We go through sector 1 is purple with a 27.7, which is the slowest sector 1 of the day. As we come up the hill, you can kind of feel like the car just doesn't have that raw pace that you experienced in the P20 or even the R18. But it was very easy to drive. It felt very casual. I think that's the word I'm looking for. It felt like a very casual car to drive, which if you're beginning off in sim racing, that's kind of what you need. You want a car that gives you a little bit of a challenge, and it looked like we missed our gear change a little bit there with a 102, so not the quickest of sector 2 with a 102 right there. As we come down the hill to the penultimate corners, drop it down into second. Again, we were able to shift up to help control the wheel spin, but as you can see, the car just wasn't, it's just not as grippy. There is a lot of understeer in this car compared to the P20, which ultimately makes it a relatively slow car, with the fastest lap being a 1:55.155. So let's take a look at the splits. So as we take a look at the splits of the M530, we can see that it's not as quick as the previous P20 or the R18, coming in for 1:35. So on average, that's around about 3 seconds a lap slower on the default setup, and I was genuinely pushing this car. It just didn't feel like I had the top end speed, and our optimal time is slightly better. As you can see, we got a better sector 2 in the lap previous, but you will see it a lot more evidently in the leaderboard / spreadsheet in the description below. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, of my first video of my car catalogue. If you want to see what more cars will be added to the catalogue, or the leaderboard, shall we call it. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the like if you like it. I would love some feedback of what you thought of the videos. I'll try and average out maybe 3 cars per video. I feel like it's a nice little balance. There's about a 10-minute watch time, so it's not too much time of your day, and yeah, it's relatively interesting how some cars can stack up against each other in the video. So in this video, the Dmd P20 takes the win and is currently at the top of our leaderboard. But until next time, make sure you take care. Fantastic 2022, and let's figure out which class we're going to do next. Bye bye.